The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m. on December 23 while I was sitting in Dr. Sarah Martinez's office for our emergency session. Christmas Eve dinner prep starts at 6 a.m. Don't forget the turkey needs to go in the oven by 8. Also, Cousin Mike's bringing his new girlfriend, so add 2 more place settings. Love you, Mom. Dr. Martinez looked up from her notepad where she'd been documenting our conversation for the past 50 minutes. How does reading that message make you feel, Rebecca? I stared at my phone, watching as 3 more messages appeared in rapid succession. Don't forget Grandma needs her blood pressure medication at 7 p.m. sharp during dinner. Aunt Linda. Can you pick up more wine? Dad drank half the bottles already. My sister Janet. Where did you put the good china? Can't find it anywhere. Mom. Exhausted, I answered honestly. And we haven't even started yet. This was our 3rd emergency session in 2 weeks. Dr. Martinez had been helping me understand that what my family called Rebecca being naturally good at organizing was actually a pattern of exploitation that had been building for over a decade. Tell me again about how this all started, she said, setting down her pen. I closed my eyes and let the memories surface. 12 years ago, when I was 24 and fresh out of college. Mom was recovering from her hysterectomy right before Thanksgiving. Janet was in her first year of medical school. My brother David was deployed overseas. I offered to help coordinate Thanksgiving dinner that year. Just that once. Just that once. But apparently I was so good at it that it became my permanent job. Every holiday, every birthday party, every family gathering, Easter, 4th of July, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, baby showers, graduation parties, retirement celebrations. Dr. Martinez leaned forward slightly. And how many family members typically attend these events you organize? 23 people for major holidays. 15 to 18 for smaller celebrations. But the Christmas season is the worst because it's actually 4 separate events. Christmas Eve dinner, Christmas morning breakfast, Christmas afternoon extended family gathering, and New Year's Eve party. 4 events that you plan and execute completely alone. Completely alone, I confirmed. While everyone else shows up, eats, socializes, and leaves. I handle all the shopping, cooking, decorating, setup, coordination, serving, and cleanup. My phone buzzed again. This time it was the family group chat exploding with last-minute requests. Rebecca, can you make sure there are vegetarian options for Mike's girlfriend? Aunt Carol. Are we doing Secret Santa gifts this year? Need to know by tomorrow morning. Cousin Jenny. Can you set up the kids' table with activities? Bringing all 4 grandkids. Uncle Pete. Don't forget Dad's lactose intolerance. He can't have the regular mashed potatoes. Janet. Is there a plan for Christmas morning coffee? Someone needs to get up early to start it. David. I showed Dr. Martinez the messages. This is what happens every year. Last-minute additions, special requests, dietary restrictions I'm supposed to remember and accommodate, plus the assumption that I'll handle every detail that makes their experience comfortable. What would happen if you simply didn't respond to these messages? They'd call. Then they'd show up at my apartment. Then they'd guilt me about ruining Christmas for everyone, especially the children. Have you ever tried to delegate any of these responsibilities? I laughed bitterly. Every year I try to create committees and assign tasks. Every year people agree to help and then don't follow through. Last Easter my cousin promised to bring the appetizers. She showed up empty-handed, saying she forgot, and asking what I had for people to snack on while dinner was finishing. So you've learned that if you don't handle everything personally, the events fail. Exactly. And when events fail, I get blamed for not planning better or asking for help sooner. It's a no-win situation. Dr. Martinez made another note. Rebecca, what would you be doing tomorrow if you weren't orchestrating Christmas for 23 people? The question caught me off guard. I don't know. I haven't had a Christmas morning to myself since I was 24. Would you like to find out? I stared at her, understanding the implication of her question. You mean just not show up? I mean protecting your own well-being by removing yourself from a situation that has become detrimental to your mental health. But the family is made up of capable adults who managed to feed themselves and celebrate holidays before you took over these responsibilities. That night, I went home to my apartment and looked at my Christmas preparations. My dining room table was covered with detailed timelines, shopping lists organized by store, cooking schedules broken down by hour, seating charts, menu plans that accommodated 7 different dietary restrictions, and activity plans for 6 children ranging from age 4 to 14. I'd spent the past 3 weeks shopping for ingredients, decorations, and gifts for people who would spend Christmas Day relaxing while I worked non-stop from 6 a.m. until midnight. My own Christmas presents sat unopened under my small tree because I never had time to enjoy them during the holidays. At 2 a.m. I made a decision that terrified and exhilarated me in equal measure. I opened my laptop and searched for cabin rentals within driving distance. I found a small place in the mountains 3 hours away, available for a last-minute booking. No cell service. No internet. Just a fireplace, some books, and complete solitude. I booked it for 3 nights. Christmas Eve morning, I packed a bag with clothes, snacks, and the novel I'd been trying to read for 6 months. I loaded my car and drove out of town while my family was probably waking up and wondering why I hadn't arrived at 6 a.m. as scheduled. I didn't turn off my phone until I was already 2 hours away from the city. The cabin was perfect. Small, warm, and completely isolated from the chaos I'd left behind. I spent Christmas Eve reading by the fireplace, cooking a simple meal for one, and enjoying the first holiday silence I'd experienced in over a decade. Christmas morning, I made coffee and sat on the cabin's porch watching snow fall on the mountain peaks. At 10 a.m. I finally turned my phone back on. 86 missed calls. 143 text messages. 27 voicemails. I scrolled through the messages chronologically, watching my family's Christmas unfold in real time. 6:15 a.m. Where are you? Turkey needs to go in the oven now. Mom. 6:45 a.m. Rebecca, this isn't funny. Call me back. Janet. 7:30 a.m. Kids are asking where Aunt Rebecca is. What do I tell them? Uncle Pete. 8 a.m. There's no food prepared. What were you thinking? Dad. 8:45 a.m. Rebecca, if this is some kind of protest, you've made your point. Come back and fix this. Aunt Carol. 9:30 a.m. 23 people are supposed to eat dinner here in 6 hours and there's nothing ready. Mom. 10:15 a.m. We're trying to figure out how to cook a turkey. None of us have ever done it. David. 11 a.m. Grandma's crying because there's no Christmas dinner. Are you happy now? Janet. 11:45 a.m. We called 3 restaurants. Everything's closed. This is a disaster. Aunt Linda. 12:30 p.m. Some people are going home. This is the worst Christmas ever. Cousin Jenny. I listened to the voicemails while sitting in my peaceful cabin. Mom crying about the ruined holiday. Dad shouting about responsibility and family obligations. Aunt Carol demanding to know where I was and insisting that I return immediately to fix everything. But the message that affected me most came from my 8-year-old nephew Tyler. Aunt Rebecca, Mommy says Christmas is ruined because you left. Did we do something wrong? I miss you. I saved that message and deleted the rest. By 2 p.m. the tone of the messages had shifted. Rebecca, wherever you are, please call back. We're worried about you. Mom. We found some frozen dinners at the convenience store. Not exactly Christmas dinner, but people are eating. David. I think we were too hard on Rebecca. She's been doing everything for years. Uncle Pete. Maybe we should have helped more instead of just showing up and expecting everything to be done. Aunt Linda. Christmas evening brought the call I'd been anticipating. Aunt Carol, the family's unofficial spokesperson, tracked down the cabin's landline number. Rebecca, what on earth are you thinking? Christmas is ruined without your planning. You can't just stop organizing everything. I listened to her rant while watching snow fall outside my window. Actually, Carol, I can. And I did. But the family depends on you. The family depends on me doing unpaid labor so they can enjoy holidays without any effort or responsibility. That's not. We appreciate everything you do. When's the last time someone thanked me for Christmas dinner? Long pause. Well, we always say how nice everything looks. When's the last time someone offered to bring something beyond a bottle of wine? Another pause. You never ask for help. I shouldn't have to ask. You're all adults who eat the food and enjoy the events. You should volunteer to help. We just assumed you liked doing it. You're so good at organizing. Being competent doesn't mean I want to sacrifice my entire holiday for everyone else's comfort. After I hung up, I spent the evening reading and reflecting on 12 years of holiday stress. How I'd gradually become the family's unpaid event coordinator. How my own Christmas experience had been reduced to a marathon of serving other people. The next morning, my phone rang with a call from Dr. Martinez. "Rebecca, I hope you don't mind that I'm calling on the holiday, but I wanted to check on how you're feeling." Guilty and peaceful at the same time. That's a normal response. You've broken a 12-year pattern. The guilt will fade as you realize that your family's discomfort is temporary, but your mental health matters long-term. They're all angry with me. Are they angry, or are they experiencing the natural consequences of taking your labor for granted? I looked out at the mountains, feeling more relaxed than I had during any holiday season in recent memory. They had to figure out how to feed themselves yesterday. And did they manage? Frozen dinners from a convenience store. Not exactly festive, but nobody starved. Then they demonstrated that they're capable of handling their own needs when necessary. When I returned home 2 days later, I found 17 voicemails waiting. But these messages were different from the angry demands of Christmas morning. "Rebecca, I owe you an apology. I never realized how much work you put into our holidays. Uncle Pete. I talked to my kids about helping more. They didn't understand that you did everything alone. Aunt Linda. We want to do better. Can we meet and figure out how to share responsibilities? Janet. I'm sorry we took you for granted. You deserve to enjoy Christmas too. Mom." The family meeting was scheduled for January 3rd at Mom's house. All 23 relatives gathered to discuss holiday planning going forward. I arrived to find them sitting around the living room with notebooks and serious expressions. "Rebecca, we owe you an apology," Mom began. "We've been selfish and thoughtless about the work you've been doing for our family. We never considered that you might want to actually enjoy the holidays instead of working through them," added Uncle Pete. Janet pulled out a detailed list. "We've researched how much work goes into the events you've been organizing. The shopping, cooking, decorating, setup, coordination, and cleanup for 23 people is essentially a part-time job. A part-time job you've been doing for free while we showed up and enjoyed the results," David said quietly. Aunt Carol, who'd been my harshest critic on Christmas Day, spoke up. "We want to create a rotating system where different families host different holidays. And we want to establish committees for food, decorations, activities, and cleanup. Would you be willing to help us organize this new system?" Mom asked hopefully. I looked around the room at my family members, all of whom seemed genuinely committed to change. "I'll help create the framework, but I won't be the permanent coordinator anymore." "We understand," Janet said. "We also want to pay you back for all the money you've spent on our holidays over the years." "How much money?" David consulted his notes. "We estimated that you've spent approximately $15,000 of your own money on family holidays over the past 12 years. Groceries, decorations, supplies, gifts for the kids' activities." I hadn't realized the financial cost had been so significant. "I don't need you to pay me back." "We want to," Uncle Pete insisted. "It's the right thing to do." The new system they created actually worked. Easter was hosted by Janet and her husband, with assigned committees handling different aspects of the meal. My job was bringing rolls and helping with cleanup, tasks that took 2 hours instead of 2 days. 4th of July was handled by Uncle Pete's family, with a potluck format that distributed the work among multiple households. I contributed a side dish and enjoyed the first relaxed holiday meal I'd had in years. By Thanksgiving, the family had developed efficient systems for collaboration. The host family handled the main dish and location. 3 other families brought side dishes. 2 families managed decorations and setup. Everyone participated in cleanup. For the first time in 12 years, I was a guest at family gatherings instead of the unpaid staff. Christmas that year was hosted by David and his wife, with the careful planning and committee structure the family had developed. I arrived as a guest, brought 2 assigned side dishes, and spent the day socializing instead of working. During the gift exchange, my nephew Tyler handed me a card made from construction paper and crayons. "Thank you for teaching us that Christmas is about family, not just food," he'd written in his careful 8-year-old handwriting. Later that evening, Mom pulled me aside. "Rebecca, I need to apologize for something specific. I've been thinking about all those years when I watched you work so hard during holidays while I sat and relaxed. I was your mother. I should have been protecting you from that kind of exploitation, not participating in it. You didn't realize what was happening. I should have realized. I should have been paying attention to how tired you were, how stressed you looked, how you never got to enjoy the events you created. 6 months later, I received a check in the mail from the family fund they'd established. $15,000 to reimburse my holiday expenses, plus interest. The note attached said, "Thank you for teaching us the difference between helping family and sacrificing yourself for family." A year after my Christmas morning escape, Dr. Martinez and I reflected on the changes in my life. "How do you feel about holidays now?" she asked. "I actually look forward to them. I get to enjoy the food, spend time with people I care about, and participate in traditions without feeling like I'm running a catering business." "And how has your relationship with your family changed?" "They respect my time and boundaries now. They ask before assuming I'll handle things. They thank me when I do help with something. They've learned to manage their own celebrations." What was the most important lesson from this experience? I thought about my peaceful Christmas morning in the mountain cabin, about the panic my absence had created, and about the healthier family dynamics that had emerged from that crisis. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is remove yourself from a situation that allows other people to avoid taking responsibility. My family didn't learn to value my contributions until they had to function without them. Do you regret missing that Christmas? Not for a second. It was the first Christmas morning in 12 years that I spent focusing on my own peace and happiness. That cabin trip saved my mental health and ultimately saved my relationship with my family. Sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is permission to step away from situations that drain your energy without providing reciprocal respect. Sometimes the holiday that you don't organize becomes the foundation for holidays that everyone can actually enjoy. My Christmas morning escape had taught my family that appreciation isn't just words. It's actions, effort, and the willingness to share responsibilities rather than expecting one person to sacrifice themselves for everyone else's comfort. As I sat in my apartment the following Christmas Eve, wrapping presents and preparing to attend David's beautifully organized dinner as a relaxed guest, I realized that the best Christmas gift I'd ever received was the courage to protect my own well-being by saying no to a tradition that had become toxic. The mountain cabin where I'd spent that Christmas morning had given me something more valuable than any family gathering: the understanding that my time, energy, and mental health were worth protecting, even if protecting them temporarily disappointed other people. Sometimes the most important boundary you can set is the one that teaches others to respect what you've been giving them all along.
The call came on our last day in Paris. I was packing while my husband, Michael, was in the shower, getting ready for our flight home. The number on my phone was familiar. His mother, Patricia. "You're homeless now," she said, her voice full of triumph. "I sold your house while you were away. My son doesn't need you anymore." I paused, holding a dress in my hands. Instead of panicking, I smiled. "Check the property records," I said calmly. "What?" Her confidence wavered. "You should check before you make any more claims." Silence. I could hear her breathing, getting more frustrated. "This is impossible," she finally said. "The sale went through yesterday. I have the papers right here." "Do you?" I asked. "And whose name is on those papers?" "My name is Emma, and for the past 5 years, Patricia has tried to push me out of Michael's life. She never thought I was good enough for her son. What she didn't know was that I was always prepared. The house is in Michael's name," she insisted. "He inherited it from his father. I have power of attorney. I can sell it." I zipped my suitcase. "Actually, Patricia, we put the house in both our names 3 years ago. Michael signed the papers himself. And your power of attorney was revoked last year after you tried to take money from our joint account." "You're lying," she hissed. Just then, Michael walked in, his hair still damp from the shower. "What's going on?" he asked. I put the phone on speaker. Patricia's voice was rising. "Michael, tell her she's wrong. Tell her about the sale, about Jessica." Michael's face darkened. "Jessica? Mom, what did you do?" Patricia had tried to sell our house to Jessica Martinez, Michael's ex-girlfriend, the same woman who had recently reappeared in town and kept accidentally running into Michael. "She's perfect for you," Patricia insisted. "From a good family, proper connections, not some book obsessed." "Stop," Michael said firmly. "What you did is not just wrong, it's illegal." "But I have the papers." I could hear her shuffling through them. "Wait, this can't be right." I knew exactly what she was seeing, the truth. The house was legally in both our names, and she had no right to sell it. Any money she had taken from Jessica would have to be returned. But Jessica already paid a deposit. She's moving in next week. Michael ran a hand through his hair, trying to stay calm. Mom, call Jessica and tell her there's been a mistake. The house is not for sale. Michael, please, Patricia pleaded. We'll talk tomorrow, he said, then hung up. He pulled me into a hug. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I hugged him back. It's okay. I knew she'd try something like this. That's why we updated the paperwork. He pulled back and smiled. My smart, prepared wife. What would I do without you? Probably be living with Jessica by now, I joked. On the flight home, Michael turned to me. How did you know Mom would try this? I thought about the conversation I had overheard months ago. Patricia and Jessica whispering about how Michael deserved better and needed saving from me. I remembered how Patricia had pushed us to take this vacation, offering to watch the house while we were gone. Let's just say she's not as subtle as she thinks she is, I said, squeezing his hand. As the plane descended, I smiled. Patricia would be furious, Jessica would be disappointed, and there would be drama waiting for us. But our home was still ours, and that was all that mattered. Sometimes the best way to win wasn't with anger or arguments, it was simply by being prepared. The house looked exactly as we'd left it 2 weeks ago, from the carefully tended flower beds to the fresh paint on the shutters. But any sense of homecoming peace was shattered by the sight of Patricia's Mercedes in our driveway, Jessica's red Audi parked right behind it. Well, Michael sighed, pulling in beside them. Looks like we're having a welcome home committee. I squeezed his hand. Ready? Before he could answer, the front door burst open. Patricia stormed out, her designer heels clicking against the pavement, Jessica trailing behind her like an eager shadow. Michael. Patricia's voice carried across the yard. Thank goodness you're home. We need to sort this mess out immediately. I stepped out of the car, noticing how Jessica's eyes fixed on Michael, a practiced smile playing on her lips. She'd done something different with her hair since I'd last seen her. It was lighter now, styled in the way Michael used to mention he liked back in college. The only mess here, Michael said firmly, is the one you created. Mom, the house was never yours to sell. Don't be ridiculous, Patricia snapped. I was only thinking of your future. Jessica's father has offered her a position at his firm. She needs a suitable home, and you need. What I need, Michael cut in, is for both of you to leave. Now. Jessica stepped forward, her smile wavering slightly. Michael, please. Your mother explained everything. How unhappy you've been, how you've been looking for a way out. I know we have another chance if. Unhappy? I couldn't help but laugh. Is that what you told her, Patricia? That your son was miserable in his marriage while we were celebrating our anniversary in Paris? Patricia's face flushed. He's too kind to tell you the truth. Always trying to spare everyone's feelings, just like his father. But I know my son. Do you? Michael's voice was quiet but sharp. Because the Michael you're describing, the one who wants to leave his wife for his ex-girlfriend, the one who's secretly miserable, I don't recognize him. That's a fiction you've created to justify your own actions. I moved toward the front door, keys in hand. This conversation is over. You both need to leave. I have a signed contract. Jessica burst out, waving a folder of papers. I gave Patricia a deposit, $20,000. You can't just ignore a legal agreement. A contract signed under false pretenses isn't legal, I replied calmly. You're lucky we're not pressing charges for attempted property fraud. Patricia's face went pale. You wouldn't dare. I'm his mother. A mother would try to sell her son's house without permission? I inserted my key into the lock. Who conspired with his ex-girlfriend to break up his marriage? You're right, Patricia. No real mother would dare do that. The words hit home. Patricia staggered back slightly as if I physically struck her. Jessica's confident facade crumbled entirely. The deposit, she stammered. I need that money back. My father will be very interested to hear how you tried to buy a house without proper authority, Michael finished. Mom, you'll return Jessica's deposit immediately. And then we're going to have a long conversation about boundaries. But, now, Mom. I pushed open the front door, breathing in a familiar scent of home. Behind me, I could hear Patricia's protests growing weaker, Jessica's heels clicking on pavement as she retreated to her car. Michael stood his ground, quiet but unmovable, as his mother finally began to understand the magnitude of what she'd done. Later that evening, after Patricia had written a check to Jessica with shaking hands and both women had left, Michael and I sat on our back porch. The sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, the same colors we'd washed over Paris just days ago. I called Dad's old lawyer, Michael said, breaking our comfortable silence. He's drawing up papers to legally prevent Mom from ever claiming power of attorney again. I leaned my head against his shoulder. How are you feeling about everything? He was quiet for a moment, his fingers absently tracing patterns on my arm. Angry, disappointed, but also relieved in a way. I've spent so many years making excuses for her behavior, trying to see the best intentions behind her actions. But this time she went too far. She did it because she loves you, I offered, though we both knew that didn't excuse anything. No, he said firmly. She did it because she wants to control me. There's a difference. He turned to face me, his eyes serious. You know what really gets me? When you caught wind of her plan, you didn't get angry or confront her. You just quietly made sure she couldn't succeed. I smiled, thinking of all the careful preparations, the updated paperwork, the quiet legal consultations. Sometimes the best defense is good documentation. He laughed, pulling me closer, my librarian warrior. Defending our home with property records and legal documents. Don't forget the power of attorney forms, I teased. Those were particularly effective. As night fell around us, we stayed on the porch, talking softly about Paris, about the future, about the boundaries we'd need to establish with Patricia going forward. Our home stood solid behind us, protected not by locks and alarms, but by preparation, foresight, and the strength of our partnership. Patricia had tried to take my home, thinking I was weak. Instead, she'd learned that sometimes the quietest people are the ones you should watch out for the most. 3 months after the failed attempt to sell our house, I was shelving books in the library's quiet reading room when an unexpected visitor arrived. Patricia stood among the stacks, looking smaller somehow in her expensive clothes, her usual confidence dimmed. Emma, she said softly, mindful of the library's silence policy, do you have a moment? I finished placing the last book before turning to face her. We hadn't seen each other since that day in our driveway. Michael had been handling all communication with his mother, insisting on strict boundaries and limited contact. My office, I said, leading her to the small room tucked behind the reference section. She sat in the visitor's chair, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. On my desk, a framed photo from our Paris trip sat on my desk, showing Michael and me laughing at a sidewalk cafe. Patricia's eyes locked onto it. He looks happy, she said softly. I haven't seen him smile like that since before you tried to sell our house to his ex-girlfriend. I finished, keeping my voice steady. She flinched. I deserve that. I deserve worse. She reached into her designer handbag and pulled out an envelope. I came to give you this. Inside was a formal apology letter, one for me and one for Michael. Along with it were documents showing she'd had started counseling. My therapist helped me understand some things, she said, her voice shaking. About control, about letting go, about how my fear of losing Michael made me try to control his life, and how that only pushed him away. I studied the woman who had spent years trying to ruin my marriage. Why now, Patricia? Because I miss my son, she admitted, tears forming in her eyes. He won't talk to me except through lawyers. And I finally realized my actions didn't just hurt you, they hurt him too. She wiped her eyes. And because you were right about something. What's that? No real mother would do what I did. I want to be a real mother again if he'll let me. I thought about the kind, loving mother Michael had once described before fear and control took over. Maybe she was still in there, buried beneath years of manipulation. It will take time, I said. Trust isn't easily repaired. I know, she straightened her shoulders, but I'm willing to do the work. She paused at the door. Thank you, Emma, not just for listening, but for loving my son enough to protect him, even from me. After she left, I sat at my desk for a long time, staring at the Paris photo. That evening, I told Michael about our conversation over dinner. She came to see you, he asked, setting down his fork. Why didn't you call me? Because she needed to take that step herself, I said, to show she could respect boundaries while trying to make things right. He read the letter carefully. Counseling. That's new. Mom always said therapy was for other people. People can change, I said gently. if they want to. 2 weeks later, we invited Patricia over for dinner. It was awkward at first, but as the evening went on, something shifted. Patricia asked about our Paris trip and listened, really listened, as we shared stories. She didn't mention Jessica, make snide remarks about my career, or suggest how Michael could do better. Instead, she admitted the truth. I was so afraid of losing you, she told Michael, that I never realized I was pushing you away. Over time, these dinners became a habit. Patricia kept going to therapy, learning to show love without control. She even started volunteering at the library's children's program, surprising us all with her gentler side. A year after the failed house sale, we had news to share. Michael squeezed my hand as I spoke. We're turning the guest room into a nursery, I said. You're going to be a grandmother. Patricia's eyes filled with tears, but this time, they were happy ones. A baby. Really? She reached for her phone, then hesitated. Would it be okay if I shared the news, or would you rather tell people yourselves? Michael and I exchanged a glance, noticing her newfound respect for boundaries. You can tell people, Mom, Michael said warmly. That's what grandmothers do. Later that night, as we stood in the nursery, I thought about how much had changed. The room Patricia had once tried to give to Jessica would now belong to her grandchild. The house she'd had tried to sell would be filled with love and laughter. Michael wrapped his arms around me. You're thinking too hard, he teased. I smiled, just appreciating how things work out, how people can surprise you. Speaking of surprises, he grinned. Want to bet how many parenting books Mom brings over tomorrow? No bet, I laughed. But at least this time, she'll ask before rearranging the nursery. The true victory wasn't in stopping Patricia's schemes. It was in giving her the chance to change, to be the mother Michael had once known and the grandmother she was meant to be. Sometimes the best ending isn't about winning. It's about healing, rebuilding, and making something stronger than before. You're a burden, Mom. You're just a burden, Mom. I pay for everything. Your rent, your bills. Marcus shouted, his face red with anger. The restaurant was empty except for us. I stood near the bar, my hands clenched together. My name is Olivia Bennett. I'm 58 years old, and today my own son was kicking me out of his restaurant, or at least, the restaurant he thought was his. I can't keep taking care of you while you pretend to help here, Marcus said. Sarah's right. You're just in the way. He ran his hands through his hair, just like his father used to do. We need to cut costs, and your rent is the first thing to go. I glanced at Sarah, my daughter-in-law, standing in a corner with a smug smile. She had been trying to push me out since she married Marcus 3 years ago. You're too involved in his life, she would say. A man needs space to grow. What neither of them knew was that I owned this building and half the block. Marcus's restaurant? It ran under my property, but he believed a company called OB Properties owned it. I understand, I said quietly, picking up my worn leather handbag. I'll move out by the end of the month. Marcus hesitated. I'll help you find something smaller, maybe a senior living community. I was only 58, far from retirement age. But I stayed quiet, thinking about the large Victorian house I had just finished renovating. Don't worry about me, dear. I'll manage. After my husband died, I used his insurance money to invest in real estate. While Marcus was in college, I built a small empire. The apartment Marcus thought he was paying for. I own that building too. His rent checks had been going straight into a savings account for his children's future. Sarah smirked. This is good for you, Marcus. You need to be independent. Independent. That word echoed in my mind. After Tom's death, I had worked 3 jobs, learned everything about real estate, and made sure Marcus never struggled. I'll get my things tomorrow, I said, walking toward the door. Good luck with the restaurant. Mom, Marcus called, his voice softer now. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I looked around one last time. The brick walls I had restored, the hardwood floors I had refinished, the antique bar I had imported from Ireland, everything I had done to make his dream come true. I'm not making it hard, Marcus. I'm just stepping aside. I pushed open the door and left. In my car, I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer. It's time, I said. Are you sure? The property tax bills go out next week. He's going to find out. I know. Send the notice tomorrow. I didn't drive to the tiny apartment Marcus thought I lived in. I went home to my beautiful Victorian house in Beacon Hill. As I stepped inside, I looked at the elegant space I had built, filled with high ceilings, modern touches, and a view of the city I had quietly conquered. Sitting in my study, I checked my property management system. The restaurant was just one of the 37 buildings I owned in Boston. Marcus thought I was struggling, but he had no idea his mother was one of the city's top real estate investors. Tomorrow he would learn the truth. A notice from OB Properties would arrive, introducing the new property manager. Me. I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped onto my balcony, watching the sun set. Sometimes love means letting your children make their own mistakes, and sometimes it means showing them the truth when they're ready. Was Marcus ready to see who I really was? Only time would tell. The next morning, I dressed carefully in one of my tailored business suits, an outfit Marcus and Sarah had never seen me wear. For years, I'd maintained my image as the modest, somewhat struggling mother, wearing simple clothes while helping at the restaurant. Today was different. I had a meeting with my property management team at 9 a.m., reviewing plans for several building renovations. By 10:30, Michael called. "The notice has been delivered to the restaurant," he said. "Are you ready for this?" I took a deep breath. I've been ready for 15 years. Around noon, my phone started buzzing. Marcus's name flashed on the screen repeatedly, followed by a barrage of texts. "Mom, what's going on? Did you know about this? The landlord is coming to meet us today. Where are you? We need your help." I let them go unanswered. At precisely 2 p.m., I walked into the restaurant, my heels clicking against the hardwood floors I'd restored years ago. Marcus and Sarah stood by the bar, paperwork scattered in front of them, their faces pale with worry. "Mom?" Marcus looked up, confused by my appearance. "What are you doing here? And why are you dressed like that?" "Good afternoon, Marcus, Sarah," I said calmly, placing my briefcase on the bar. "I believe you received a notice about meeting your landlord today." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "We don't have time for this. We're about to meet with OB Properties. They're sending someone to discuss the lease." "Actually," I said, pulling out a folder, "OB Properties is already here." I handed them my business card, Olivia Bennett, CEO of OB Properties LLC. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus stared at the card, then at me, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and shock. "This isn't possible," Sarah whispered, grabbing the card from Marcus's hands. You live in that tiny apartment. Marcus pays your rent." I smiled, sitting down at the bar. "No, Sarah. Marcus sends money every month, which goes directly into a trust fund for any future grandchildren. I own that apartment building, just like I own this one and many others." Marcus sank onto a bar stool, his legs seemingly unable to hold him up. "All this time, the mysterious landlord who gave me such a good deal on the lease was me," I finished. "I bought this building when you were still in culinary school. I renovated it specifically with your dream restaurant in mind. But why didn't you tell me?" His voice cracked slightly. I looked at my son, really looked at him. "Because you needed to believe you did this on your own. You needed to build your confidence, your skills. I just provided the foundation. Everything else, the success of this restaurant, that's all you." Sarah wasn't taking it as well. "You've been lying to us, making us think you needed our help, letting us believe." "I never said I needed help," I interrupted quietly. "You both assumed that. You saw what you wanted to see, a widow struggling to get by. Never once did you ask about my life, my work, or how I spent my days." Marcus ran his hands through his hair again, that familiar gesture now tinged with regret. "The apartment, the bills we've been paying. All going towards your children's future," I confirmed. "I've been saving it, along with matching contributions of my own. By the time you have kids, their education will be fully funded." "Yesterday," he started, his face flushing with shame. "What I said to you was hurtful, I acknowledged, but may be necessary. It's time you knew the truth about your mother, Marcus. I'm not the burden you think I am. I'm a businesswoman who's spent 15 years building something significant." I opened my briefcase and pulled out more documents, proof of my property holdings, investment portfolios, and the trust fund statements. As Marcus and Sarah looked through them, their hands trembling slightly, I could see their worldview shifting. "All those evenings you spent helping around here," Marcus said slowly. "You were actually checking on your investment, weren't you?" "I was spending time with my son." I corrected him. "The fact that I owned the building was secondary. Everything I've done has been to secure your future, to give you a foundation to build your dreams on." Sarah sat down heavily, the papers clutched in her hands. The property taxes alone on this building are more than the restaurant's monthly revenue, I finished. Why did you think the rent was so reasonable? I wanted you to have a chance to succeed, Marcus. I just needed to do it in a way that let you feel independent. The next few weeks brought dramatic changes to our family dynamics. Marcus insisted I move into the owner's apartment above the restaurant, a space I'd kept vacant for years. It's yours anyway, he said, his voice carrying a new hint of respect. And I'd like you closer. I kept my Victorian home, but found myself spending more evenings at the restaurant, this time openly sharing my business knowledge with Marcus. Sarah, surprisingly, was the one who sought me out most often. I can't believe I was so wrong about you, she'd admitted one evening as we sat going through the restaurant's books. All this time, I thought you were clinging to Marcus, but you were actually supporting us in ways we never knew. Sometimes love means stepping back, I said, showing her how to better organize their financial records. Even when you have the power to step in. The restaurant staff, who'd always liked me as the helpful mom, were amazed to discover I was actually the property owner. Maria, our head waitress of 5 years, laughed when she found out. I always wondered why you knew so much about the building's history. 1 month after the revelation, Marcus called a family meeting. He and Sarah sat across from me in the restaurant's private dining room, looking nervous but determined. Mom, Marcus started, we've been doing a lot of thinking. I was horrible to you and I'm sorry. But more than that, I'm grateful. You could have stopped me at any time, shown me the truth, made me feel foolish for my assumptions. Instead, you let me learn and grow. Sarah reached for his hand. We've been talking about the future. About family. She touched her stomach gently, and my heart leaped. We're having a baby. Tears welled in my eyes. That's wonderful news. There's more, Marcus continued. We want you involved, really involved. Not just as a grandmother, but as a mentor. I've seen your business records now, Mom. What you've built, it's incredible. We want to learn from you. I looked at them both, seeing the genuine change in their attitudes. I'd like that very much. Over the next few months, I watched Marcus and Sarah transform. They became eager students of both business and family. The restaurant thrived under our combined efforts. Marcus's culinary expertise, Sarah's newfound financial acumen, and my business experience. One evening, as I was leaving the restaurant, I overheard Marcus talking to a customer. See that elegant lady at the bar? That's my mother, one of Boston's most successful business owners. Everything I am, everything I've built is because she believed in me enough to let me find my own way. 6 months later, I held my grandson, Thomas Oliver Bennett, named for both his grandfather and me. As I rocked him in the beautifully restored apartment above the restaurant, I could hear the bustling dinner service below. The sound of success built on truth, trust, and time. I have something for him, I told Marcus and Sarah, pulling out an envelope. Inside was the trust fund documentation. 15 years of the rent payments, plus my contributions, now designated for little Thomas's future. Sarah wiped away tears. All this time, you were thinking ahead. That's what mothers do, I said simply. We build foundations, even when no one sees us working. Marcus touched the antique bar as he looked around the restaurant. I always thought this place was my dream come true. Now I realize it was yours first, your dream of giving me mine. No, I corrected him gently. My dream was always just to see you happy, successful, and kind. The restaurant was merely the vehicle. Today, OB Properties remains one of Boston's premier real estate companies, but now it's truly a family business. Marcus and Sarah are learning the ropes, preparing to help manage our growing empire while maintaining the restaurant's excellence. Every Sunday, we have family dinner in the private dining room. Sometimes I catch Marcus watching me with a mix of amazement and regret, still processing how wrong he'd been about his struggling mother. But mostly, we focus on the future we're building together, a future founded on truth, understanding, and the kind of love that's strong enough to let go until the time is right to hold on again. As my grandson grows, he'll learn early what it took his father years to understand. That success isn't just about what you build, but about how you build it with patience, wisdom, and enough love to let others find their own way back to you. These are worthless, just like you, Amanda shouted, throwing another one of my paintings into her truck. You're embarrassing our family with this nonsense. I'm taking these to the dump where they belong. I stood frozen, my hands shaking as I watched my sister-in-law destroy 5 years of my work. My name is Olivia, And at 32, I never imagined my own family would steal my art in the name of helping me. Please, those paintings mean everything to me, I begged. But Amanda just laughed. Then maybe you should have spent more time being a good wife instead of wasting your life on this junk, she said, holding up my favorite painting of a night sky. I reached for it, but she pushed me back. Behind her, my mother-in-law, Margaret, stood with her arms crossed, watching. Amanda's right, dear, she said with fake concern. These silly paintings are distracting you from your real duties. I knew the truth. Last week, I was invited to an art show, my first chance to share my work. But Amanda, who always saw herself as the creative one in the family, couldn't stand the thought of me getting any attention. She grabbed another painting, a portrait of an elderly woman I had carefully painted. This one deserves special treatment, she said, raising her knee to break the canvas. Stop. I tried to stop her, but Margaret grabbed my arm. Let her do this, Olivia. You're being dramatic. I watched helplessly as Amanda loaded the last of my paintings into her truck. All my hard work gone. The worst part, my husband, Michael, was at work, unaware of what was happening. Or maybe he did know. He had been distant lately, spending more time at the office. There, Amanda said, brushing off her hands. Now you can focus on being the wife Michael deserves. As they drove away, I sank to the garage floor, surrounded by empty easels and scattered brushes. The space that had been my safe place now felt hollow. But beneath my sadness, something stronger stirred, determination. What Amanda and Margaret didn't know was that I had taken photos of every piece I'd ever created. I had proof. Even more importantly, I had been sharing my work online for years under the name OV Knight, building a following they knew nothing about. I grabbed my phone and called my best friend, Lauren. They did what? She shouted. They took everything, I said, my voice shaking. That's theft, Liv. I'll make some calls, she said. Later that evening, when Michael came home, I told him what had happened. He loosened his tie and sighed. Maybe they're right, he said. Your art, it's not exactly helping our future. Amanda just wants what's best for the family. I stared at him, the man who once loved watching me paint. Had he changed or had I just been blind? Our future? I asked. Or your future at your father's firm? He didn't answer. He just walked upstairs. His phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at the screen. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, baby. Hope you told your wife about the late meeting. Jessica. Everything clicked. His late nights, his distance, his family's sudden push to fix me. They weren't just trying to stop me from the art show. They were making room for someone else in my place. I went to the office, opened my laptop, and logged into my OV Knight account. My latest post had thousands of likes, with people praising my art. I checked my email. An art dealer from New York wanted to feature me in an upcoming show. I smiled. Amanda thought she had destroyed my future. She had no idea who I really was or what I was capable of. I typed my reply, steady and sure. Thank you for your interest. I'd love to discuss this further. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. 3 months passed in a blur of careful planning and quiet observation. I rented a small studio apartment using money I'd saved from selling my digital art online. Another talent my in-laws never knew about. Michael barely noticed my increasing absences, too preoccupied with his late meetings with Jessica. I was in my new studio working on a commission piece when Lauren called. Liv, you need to get down to the museum right now. Her voice was tight with controlled anger. Remember that special exhibition I told you about? The one showcasing emerging local talent. Yes. What about it? Your paintings are here. All of them, and guess who's claiming to be the artist? My brush clattered to the floor. Amanda. She's calling herself AM Knight. Real creative, right? She's here right now, giving interviews about her artistic journey and her inspiration from nature and human struggles. I felt oddly calm as I grabbed my keys. Send me pictures. I'm on my way. When I arrived at the museum, the exhibition hall was crowded with art enthusiasts and local media. Through the glass doors, I could see Amanda, dressed in an expensive bohemian outfit that screamed trying too hard to look artistic, gesturing dramatically in front of my night sky painting. That piece represents the struggle between light and darkness, I heard her say to a group of reporters. I spent countless nights perfecting the technique. Lauren met me at the side entrance, her face flushed with anger. She's been spinning this story for weeks. claims she's been painting in secret for years, afraid to share her talent with the world. The gallery owner is eating it up. I pulled out my phone and opened my encrypted cloud storage. Good thing I keep receipts. Every painting had been documented from first sketch to final brushstroke. I had videos of myself working on them, dated photos, even early versions and studies. More importantly, I had my entire OV Knight portfolio, works in the same distinctive style that predated anything Amanda was claiming as hers. Mrs. Rhodes. A distinguished-looking man approached Lauren. The Times reporter is asking about the authentication process for the A.M. Knight collection. Actually, I stepped forward. I can help with that. The next few minutes were chaos. I introduced myself and calmly opened my phone gallery. As I swiped through the evidence, Amanda's face turned from confusion to horror. She tried to maintain her composure, but I could see panic setting in. "These are clearly forgeries," she sputtered. "She's trying to steal my moment." "Interesting theory," I replied, pulling up a video of myself working on the elderly woman's portrait, especially since this was posted on OV Knight's account 6 months ago. "Tell me, Amanda, how did you manage to perfectly replicate a painting that already existed?" The gallery owner was now looking between the paintings and my documentation, his expression growing increasingly grave. Margaret, who had been proudly watching from the corner, rushed forward. "This is ridiculous. Olivia has always been jealous of Amanda's talents. She's clearly fabricated all of this." Lauren cleared her throat. "Actually, as the museum's curator, I can confirm that OV Knight's work has been verified and tracked for years. We've been following the artist's development quite closely." The whispers started spreading through the crowd. Phones came out. People started looking up OV Knight's portfolio. Amanda's carefully constructed lie was unraveling thread by thread. "I can explain," Amanda started, but the gallery owner cut her off. "I think we've seen enough. Security, please ensure these pieces are secured. We'll need to document everything for the police report." "Police?" Margaret's voice went up an octave. "Surely we can handle this as a family matter." I turned to face her, years of suppressed anger finally surfacing. "Like how you handled taking my paintings? Or how you've been handling Michael's affair with Jessica?" The silence that followed was deafening. Margaret's face went white. Clearly, she hadn't known about Jessica, or at least hadn't known that I knew. "That's right," I continued, my voice carrying across the now silent gallery. "While you've been so focused on controlling my life and stealing my art, you missed what was happening right under your nose. But don't worry, I have evidence of that too." Amanda started to say something, but Margaret grabbed her arm, finally realizing just how badly they miscalculated. I watched them hurry toward the exit, their perfect facade crumbling with every step. The gallery owner turned to me, genuine admiration in his eyes. "You're OV Knight? We've been trying to contact you for months about a major exhibition." I smiled, thinking of the studio apartment where my newest works were taking shape. "I'm listening." As security began carefully documenting and removing my stolen paintings, Lauren squeezed my arm. "Are you okay?" I looked around the gallery, at the people still studying my work with genuine appreciation, at Amanda's abandoned bohemian shawl lying forgotten on a chair, at the business cards being pressed into my hands by collectors and gallery owners. "You know what? I really am." My phone buzzed. Michael calling, probably wondering why his mother was calling him in a panic. I declined the call and turned back to the gallery owner. "Now about that exhibition." Word spread quickly in the art world, and even faster in family circles. By morning, Amanda's attempt to steal my paintings was all over the local news. Headlines read, "Emerging artist exposed as fraud. Sister-in-law reveals truth." My online portfolio, OV Knight, exploded with new followers, and galleries across the country were reaching out. Michael came home that evening, his face filled with anger and confusion. "What have you done?" he demanded. "Mom's a mess. Amanda's reputation is ruined." I kept packing my art supplies into boxes, each movement feeling like a step toward freedom. I told the truth, something your family has a problem with. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone and played a video, security footage of Amanda and Margaret loading my paintings into the truck. "It means I'm done pretending. Done letting your family destroy what matters to me. And done ignoring your affair with Jessica." Michael's face turned pale. "How did you? Does it matter?" What matters is that I'm leaving. The divorce papers are on the kitchen counter. Your signature spot is marked. Divorce? You can't be serious. Where will you even go? I pointed to a stack of business cards. Turns out, when you stop hiding your talent, opportunities come to you. The National Gallery wants to feature my work, the real artist, not your sister's cheap copies. As if on cue, my phone rang. Lauren, updating me on the police investigation. Michael watched as I calmly discussed evidence and documentation. His expression changed. He was finally seeing me, not as a wife with a hobby, but as a real artist. I never knew, he said quietly. You never wanted to know. You were too busy making me fit into your family's mold. But guess what? The mold broke. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. While my lawyers handled the divorce and Amanda's legal troubles, I focused on preparing for my first major solo exhibition. The National Gallery didn't just want my art, they wanted my story. Margaret tried to stop it, of course. She showed up at my studio, teary-eyed. We only wanted what was best for the family, she pleaded. No, I corrected, you wanted what was best for your image. There's a difference. But we're family. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't cover up affairs. Family doesn't crush someone's dreams. She left without another word. Opening night of my exhibition was everything I had dreamed of. My paintings were displayed with my name proudly beside them. Critics praised my work. Collectors made offers that would have made Amanda jealous. Lauren found me standing in front of my night sky painting, the one Amanda had nearly destroyed. Look at you, she said with a grin. The toast of the art world. Not bad for a worthless hobby, I laughed. As I moved through the gallery, I overheard whispers about Amanda's upcoming trial and Michael's divorce. Word was Jessica had already moved on, leaving him alone to deal with his family's downfall. But those stories weren't mine anymore. My story was on these walls, in every brushstroke. It was in the new art I was creating, free from expectations, free from limits. The elderly woman I had painted came to the exhibition. She stood in front of her portrait, eyes glistening with tears. You saw me, she whispered. You really saw me. That's what art was about, seeing people, understanding them. Something my old family had never done. 5 years later, my paintings hang in major galleries worldwide. Ovi Night is no longer a mystery. I stepped into my identity proudly. Amanda's theft became part of my success story. Sometimes I hear updates about them. Amanda's failed career, Margaret's lost social status, Michael's lonely life. But I don't focus on them. I focus on my art. The latest piece in my studio is a self-portrait, not of my face, but of my hands holding a paintbrush, creating something new. Behind it, barely visible, is the shadow of my old garage studio, transformed into wings. Some call it my masterpiece. I call it freedom.